They saw your reaction, that flinch, that twitch, that look on your face when they said it. And in that moment, they won. Not because they were right, not because they were better, but because they found your trigger. And now they know how to control you. We live in a world obsessed with being offended. Every word dissected, every post analyzed, every opinion turned into a battlefield. But behind the drama, behind the outrage, lies a cold truth. To be offended is to be exposed. Not strong, not noble, exposed. Because when you get offended, you announce something very dangerous. Here is where I am weak. You hand your enemies the blueprint. You give them your soft spot. You mark the exact location where your mind can be broken. And make no mistake, they will use it. You see, the powerful don't get offended. They get informed. Because the moment you show offense, you've already lost the game of control. You've stepped out of strategy and into emotion, out of command and into chaos. You stopped thinking like a ruler and started reacting like a victim. This isn't about being cold. It's about being untouchable. Because the world is not fair. It is not polite. It does not care about your feelings. And the ones who rise, the Machiavellians, the tacticians, the invisible kings, they do not flinch. They do not react. They observe. Offense is a trap. It's how they bait you, how they drag you into their emotional arena so they can burn you with your own fire. So let me ask you something. What offends you? An insult? A rejection? An opinion? Good. Now, you know exactly what you need to kill inside yourself. Because if it offends you, it owns you. And if it owns you, you're not free. You're just another puppet in a world full of strings. Offense is not a strength. It is a flare shot into the night sky, revealing your position to every hunter watching. It's the silent cry. Here I am, fragile, emotional, easy to manipulate. Understand this. Those who seek power are always watching for cracks. And when you get offended, you create one, wide and gaping. You think you're making a moral stand. You think you're defending your honor. But in reality, you're handing over the keys to your mind. The offended man becomes predictable. He becomes impulsive. And above all, he becomes easy to conquer. Because you don't defeat a strong man by fighting his body. You defeat him by steering his emotions. Offense is the steering wheel. Machiavelli knew this truth long before modern outrage culture was invented. In The Prince, he warned rulers to avoid angering the masses unnecessarily, not out of respect, but out of pure tactical calculation. Because angry people can be weaponized, but offended people are much simpler. They're just programmed targets ready to react exactly how you want. Today, the powerful don't fear your anger. They count on it. They farm it. They direct it wherever it serves their agenda. And the more easily offended you are, the more easily you are herded like cattle. Think about the last time you were truly offended. How long did you stay rational? How long before you became emotional, impulsive, desperate to react? That's not power. That's slavery. Emotional slavery. Here's the real secret. You are not obligated to react. You are not required to feel wounded. You are not duty-bound to defend your ego at every insult. True power lies in your ability to remain untouched, to see the bait and walk past it. The world expects you to flinch. It expects you to lash out, because that's what the weak always do. But if you can stand there, silent, calm, unreadable, you become something else. Something terrifying. Something untouchable. Because when nothing offends you, you are unpredictable. You are unbreakable. You are free. Offense chains you to the manipulations of others. Detachment severs those chains. And it gets even better. When you master your offense, you master theirs too. While they rage, you plan. While they cry, you calculate. While they reveal their weaknesses, you sharpen your knife. The offended man is loud. The powerful man is quiet. The offended man burns himself alive for the world to see. The powerful man watches, waits, and takes the throne. You have a choice to make. You can continue living as a pawn controlled by every word, every post, every glance. Or you can burn the part of yourself that flinches, the part that needs validation, the part that craves respect from the world, and rebuild yourself into something the world cannot move. Because the offended man is a puppet, But the man who cannot be offended, he is a king. And in a world full of puppets, the king has no competition. Offense wasn't always a weapon. Once it was a personal feeling, an inner reaction handled privately, a signal to strengthen oneself. But somewhere along the way, something changed. Society realized something chilling. Offense could be manufactured. Offense could be sold. Offense could be used to control. And so began one of the most successful experiments in mass manipulation the world has ever seen: the weaponization of sensitivity. Today, society doesn't just permit you to be offended. It rewards you for it. The more fragile you are, the more attention you get. The more emotional you are, the more validation is poured into your hands. The more easily you are hurt, the more power you're told you have. But it's all a trick, a beautiful, carefully engineered lie. Because real power is not given. It is taken. And no man intoxicated by outrage ever takes anything. He only consumes what he's fed: outrage, distraction, division, until his mind is no longer his own. Look around. Outrage isn't rare. It's mass-produced. Social media thrives on it. News outlets depend on it. Political campaigns are built entirely on it. Not reason, not strength, not unity. Outrage. Because outrage does three things. It divides people, brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor, each offended, each certain they are the righteous victim. It distracts from real power. While you argue over words and feelings, the architects of your outrage by influence, pass laws, and reshape your future without resistance. It makes people easy to control. An emotional crowd doesn't think. It obeys. It moves wherever it is pointed, like cattle to slaughter. Machiavelli, had he lived today, would marvel at the brilliance of this system. In the discourses, he warned that a ruler must keep the people busy, either with wars, festivals, or distractions, so they would not have time to think about rebellion. Today, the rulers have perfected that idea. They keep the people busy with each other, fighting over insults, offended by shadows, too blind with outrage to see who's holding the real power. Sensitivity was transformed into a currency. But it's a currency only useful to the market that created it. You feel empowered by your offense. You feel righteous. You feel seen. But in reality, you become a product. Your outrage is measured, monetized, and manipulated to serve agendas you will never see. The more sensitive you are, the more valuable you become to them. Not as a leader, not as a thinker, but as a resource. A resource to harvest, a pawn to move, an asset to exploit. And yet, the irony is brutal. The more you rely on offense for power, the less real power you ever possess. Because real power isn't loud. It's silent. Real power isn't emotional. It's calculated. Real power doesn't rage over words. It shapes the minds of those who do. The world taught you to be offended because it made you easier to conquer. It taught you to wear your emotions like armor. But in truth, it made you walk the battlefield naked. You think you're fighting, but you're bleeding from wounds you gave yourself. You think you're resisting, but you're moving exactly how they want you to move. Every protest, every campaign, every hashtag fueled by offense. Another chess move, another distraction, another day you waste while the real players move their pieces in silence. If you want to escape, you must understand, sensitivity is not a virtue. It is a vulnerability. And a man who values his sensitivity over his sovereignty will never be free. He will always be at the mercy of louder voices, harsher insults, sharper manipulations. He will spend his life reacting, and the rulers will spend their lives winning. In the war for your mind, offense is the first wound. But detachment is the first weapon. Because when they can no longer offend you, they can no longer move you. And when they can no longer move you, they can no longer use you. We live in a world where words have become weapons, and every reaction, every emotional outburst, is a victory for the one who knows how to manipulate them. You think you're in control. You think your outrage is your shield. But in reality, it's your sword, one you wield against yourself. This is the essence of psychological war. You don't need armies, guns, or violence. You just need to know how to provoke the right emotional response. And the battlefield? It's your mind. Once you understand how to trigger offense, you control the narrative. Once you know how to manipulate feelings, you can turn anyone into a weapon for your cause. In The Art of War, Sun Tzu said, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." And that's exactly what's happening every day in the war for your attention. You are the enemy, but you don't even know it. You think the enemy is the person who insults you, the politician who disagrees with you, the celebrity who offends you. But no, the enemy is much more insidious than that. The true enemy is the one pulling the strings from behind the scenes. The ones who profit from your rage, your hurt, your weakness. The power to control minds comes down to one principle. You must create emotional dominance. When you control someone's emotional response, you control their thoughts, their actions, and their choices. The powerful know this truth intimately. They understand how to create a world where every word, every phrase, every situation triggers a response. And that response is always in their favor. Take a moment and think. How many times have you reacted impulsively, without thinking, without strategy, simply because of something someone said? The moment you react emotionally, whether with offense, anger, or even joy, you lose control. You're no longer thinking. You're no longer plotting. You are responding to the game they've set for you. And here's the brutal reality. They want you to respond. They want you to get angry. They want you to take the bait. They want you to become emotional. Because when you do, you make yourself vulnerable. Every reaction is like a door opening up your deepest weaknesses to those who know how to exploit them. When you react emotionally, you become predictable. And when you are predictable, you're no longer free. Let's look at the two sides of this war. The manipulator versus the manipulated. The manipulator knows this. Emotions are easily triggered. They can be stoked with a well-placed insult, a carefully crafted story, a viral headline. People are creatures of habit. Once a person reacts emotionally, it becomes easier and easier to trigger them again. They don't need to think. They just need to feel. People always underestimate the power of silence. When you do nothing, when you show no emotion, you leave them guessing. The manipulator, on the other hand, is never guessing. They're always planning. The manipulator doesn't need to win every battle. They just need to create the conditions where you are the one constantly reacting. They want you to use your energy, your time, your mental power on emotions that don't matter, so that you lose sight of what truly matters: control. Now let's look at you, the manipulated. You're driven by outrage. You're driven by your emotions. And in doing so, you've been pulled into a psychological trap. You're playing a game that you cannot win. Because as long as they control your emotions, they control you. You are their pawn, moving exactly where they want you to go without even realizing it. The way to break free from this war is deceptively simple, but it's the hardest thing for most people to do. Detach. Stop reacting. Stop defending. Stop feeling. It's the art of psychological warfare. Never give them the satisfaction of seeing your reaction. When you show no emotion, when you don't flinch, when you don't respond, you win the battle. Why? Because in the game of psychological war, the first one to react loses. And when you stop reacting, you stop being controlled. You break free from their tactics. But this takes discipline. This takes a willingness to break the mold. Most people will never achieve this level of control because it requires something rare: the ability to outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast. The manipulator is counting on your impulsive reaction. They are counting on your outrage. And when you don't give it to them, you leave them powerless. Offense is the entry point into your mind. It's how they break you. It's how they win. But if you want to be untouchable, you must be willing to rise above the emotional chaos. You must control your response, and in doing so, control the entire game. Real power doesn't scream. It doesn't explain. It doesn't apologize. True strength walks into a room and says nothing. Yet every eye is drawn to it. That's a level most people will never reach because they are too busy chasing validation, desperate to be liked, understood, and praised. But here's the brutal truth Machiavelli understood centuries ago. The one who needs to be understood is already beneath the one who remains silent. There is a brutal law you must understand. The person who can offend you owns you. If someone can make you angry, make you emotional, make you break your composure, they have found your leash. They will tug it whenever they want, and you will dance. But if you remain cold, if you stay unmoved, the leash snaps. When your enemies insult you and you don't flinch, they lose ground. When your rivals bait you and you smile in silence, they lose control. When the world expects your reaction and you give them nothing, they begin to fear what you might be planning. That's true dominance. That's Machiavellian mastery. When you no longer react, you become a mirror. People project their insecurities onto you. They become uncomfortable because they can't read you. They become paranoid because silence breeds fear. And out of that fear comes respect. People don't attack what they don't understand. They don't challenge what they can't predict. You don't need to announce your strength. You don't need to prove your worth. Your power lies in your ability to stay silent while others destroy themselves trying to provoke you. In a world where everyone is screaming to be heard, the whisper becomes a thunderstorm. In a world where everyone is easily triggered, the one who remains calm owns the battlefield. Machiavelli never trusted those who wore their emotions openly. He saw them as weak, easy to manipulate, and doomed to fail. But the cold man, the silent man, the one who could not be provoked, that was the dangerous man. The one who couldn't be baited, the one who couldn't be broken, the one who couldn't be played. If you want real power, abandon the need to react. Speak less, show less, react never. Let others burn themselves out screaming into the void. You, on the other hand, will remain still. And in that stillness, you will build a storm so powerful that they will never see it coming until it's too late. The modern world is ruled by a simple weapon: offense. Entire empires of influence are built on it. Trigger the masses and you control their emotions. Control their emotions and you control their actions. It's a leash most people never realize is tied around their neck. They walk through life thinking they are free. But one wrong word, one wrong idea, and they explode in rage, in tears, in helplessness. They are prisoners of their own emotions, puppets jerking at invisible strings. Machiavelli understood that whoever could master this weakness would rule the herd without ever needing to lift a sword. Why waste armies when you can conquer hearts through offense? Why fight battles when you can make the enemy destroy themselves simply by making them feel insulted? The offended man is easy to predict, easy to bait, easy to control. A few words, a few headlines, and entire nations can be herded like cattle. But the few, the rare few, who rise above offense, those are the ones who become truly dangerous. They can't be manipulated. They can't be herded. They can't be tamed. When the world shouts at them, insults them, mocks them, and they remain silent, it terrifies the herd. Because silence means strength. Calmness means certainty. Indifference means superiority. Think about the greatest players of power, both ancient and modern. They don't panic. They don't whine. They don't reveal their wounds. They smile while others bleed. They watch while others rage. They wait while others crumble. Every time you refuse to be offended, you break another link in the chain designed to enslave you. Every time you stay calm while others lose their minds, you become more powerful than 1,000 screaming men. The masses believe that offense makes them righteous. They believe that outrage gives them strength. It's a beautiful illusion, and it keeps them trapped forever. Machiavelli would laugh at how easily they're played, how predictably they fall. Because when you're easily offended, you are easily enslaved. And when you are enslaved, you are easily forgotten. The world today rewards outrage, but secretly respects restraint. It showers attention on those who cry the loudest, but it bows before those who never kneel. If you want to rise above the chaos, you must build a mind that is immune to insult, indifferent to ridicule, unshaken by mockery. Because every insult is a test. Every offense is bait, and only the weak bite. Machiavelli's brutal truth still holds. Those who govern emotions govern the world. But those who govern their own emotions govern themselves. And that is the highest form of power. So stay cold, stay calm, stay detached. Let the world scream itself into madness while you remain the eye of the storm. And if you found value in these cold truths, if you're ready to rule your emotions instead of being ruled by them, make sure you like this video and subscribe for more brutal lessons they don't want you to hear. Stay dangerous. Stay silent.